At the end of yesterday's episode, we were trying to decide, do we have it curved or do we have it straight? And the idea was that people were supposed to comment and, let me know what their preference was. Well, I've sort of decided we're just going to wait until the end of today's episode, give more people a chance to respond, and in the meantime, let's find another spot to work on while we're waiting. Now, the most logical place to go on this section here, the aft section, would probably be right here, or right here, either way. And I'm looking though, you notice right here where those four rails come, and go nowhere? Well, I was thinking, what if a person was to take the, where when you trim these off, you end up with a little piece that's almost like a post. Would it be possible for me to glue one of these rail pieces vertically and on the end there, and it would almost look like a post? It would then you wouldn't have rails just ending nowhere, like some sort of computer drawing where all of a sudden something just disappears on you. Now the plan is to try and glue this little piece of railing onto this little piece of sprue. Okay, so as you can imagine, when I try to put the little tiny droplet of glue right there, this piece here is going to stick to it. So I got to figure out how to hold it down here. That's not really rocket science. Just very gently, that should do it. And for this one here, let's get it a little bit closer. I'll do the fine adjusting later. And maybe you could sit on there like that. Okay. Now this stuff here, that's a waxed paper or something like that. I don't think the CA is going to stick to it. Whoops. Oh. Okay, maybe something like this would be better. Okay, I think it's time to put on the macro lens here. Now in my little cup right here, I've got that CA mixture, mostly thin and a little bit thick, so it's a very, very diluted medium. And this is our needle that I accidentally shortened too much, but then later thought might be okay. And this is the first time that I'm trying it. So you get to see it along with me. Now, does it look like those two are touching? I think they are. Okay, let's see what's going to happen here now. Now, if you watch closely, you're going to notice that I accidentally separate the two pieces, and there's a bit of a gap. And if you keep watching closely, you're going to see that I accidentally bring them back together again. There. I do believe they're welded together now. If I can just... Well, let's just leave that and see what happens. And here's hoping it's not going to stick to the waxed paper. Okay, I don't know if you can see that, but I did put another drop on because I didn't think there was enough really, but you know me, I always put on too much, so I guess we'll soon know. Once that cures, then we'll try and get it off the paper. About half an hour has passed now. Alright, I'm thinking that rather than try and lift them off, I'm going to break it loose by pushing on this end here, and hopefully that will then sort of push the photo etch piece loose too. And there's less chance of it breaking loose. That's my thinking. I could be wrong. Okay. Managed to stay together. Now this is actually the first time I'm trying this, so it may not work. The idea is to get this adjusted so that well, maybe I'll stick the macro lens back on now that you know what I'm doing. Okay, we're going to continue on here. And what I want to do is lower this down so it's more or less in the right place. With maybe a little bit of tension up against the horizontal rails. Have to go down a bit here. Now, to me that looks just about exactly right. It maybe could be tilted a little bit the top to the left. In other words, towards you. But that looks pretty good. So the idea being is that if I can glue it onto the ends of the rail, of the different rails, then I can nip it off. At least that's the plan. Let's see if we can just straighten it a little bit. It doesn't look perpendicular. Now, if I could just get the top two first. I've lost my perspective here. Now it appears to me that the CA has sort of run back up the needle. Now I realize that this particular viscosity of CA glue that I mixed up will solidify all by itself, probably in about 10 minutes. However, I'm going to crop in on that one connection a little bit, and if you watch closely, you can actually see it sort of solidifying, or crystallizing, or whatever it is that CA glue does. Now, just in case there's somebody watching right now who hasn't seen me do this in a previous episode, I'm blowing through a very small little rubber hose here, and I credit the moisture in my breath, and it's acting like a curing agent on the CA glue. Okay, now here's the delicate part. How do I squeeze this together without putting any stress? Now, maybe it's an optical illusion, but it appears to me that the top rail the top rail is not against this piece right here. Okay, maybe what we should do now is try and nip this off right there. I guess you've caught on to the fact that I put you over on the other side of the ship. That way I can get in here a lot easier. Alright, now very, very carefully here. Oh. Oh. Well, there's no use crying about it. Well, if nothing else, I had fun. Maybe we'll straighten this one just a little bit here. It looks kind of crooked. Actually, from my side, it looks straight. I don't know why it looks crooked from your side. Maybe because this one here on the bottom, excuse me, is too far down. Okay, I'm just going to leave it. It looks good from my side. We're all very familiar with the old saying, hindsight is better than foresight. Now, in hindsight, I should have known, like I obviously knew that piece of railing that we were working on there was going to be a little bit short and I might want to post on it. So I would have thought, or thinking about it now, wouldn't it be better to try and glue the post on before you get it in place? Okay, we'll slip the macro lens back on and we'll see how much easier it would be. I'll just fasten everything down again and yeah, let's just try it. Got nothing else to do right now anyway. Now let me rephrase that. You've got nothing else to do. I've got miles of railing to put on. Well, inches of railing anyway. Or, being Canadian, centimeters of railing. Now it's been recommended to me that I do not use my pin vise for holding the applicator. In other words, I use a little dowel. Well, I actually did use a little dowel to reach in when we had our fiasco going on there before. But I'll explain later why I use my pin vise instead of fastening the needle into the end of a wooden dowel. Oh, it's not quite right. Okay, if I could just move it out just a smidgen here. Very hard to get it. Oh. Well, let's just leave it like that. Okay, now we'll put on the macro lens. Now, my thinking is if I just do the top rail, okay, I'm going to have to reset that. Maybe I need something a little heavier. Okay. There. It came off. Did I get any? Okay, I saw it now. Alright, now we'll let that cure, and then I'll remove the weight. I guess I could probably remove the weight right now. I don't think it's going anywhere. Let's try it. Now I could just do the middle rails. Okay. Now, if I trim that down later, it should look pretty realistic. Now, I did use the Tamiya nipper here to trim off the bottom, and it got it fairly flush. However, because I want this post to match up with these other two, you know, there's a little knob on the top there. I want the can't talk and work at the same time, sorry. Maybe that's too much. Let's see what happens here. Hold it down. That looks pretty good. At least it looks good to me. Now I was noticing, I'll flip this over, that the you can see the CA glue on this side. Well, not too bad. It looks pretty good. At a distance, you're not going to see. Now, to put everything into perspective, that's what we're dealing with. Something really small. Okay, now, why is it that I use my pin vise? Well, when the needle gets plugged up, what I do is I will just soak it in a little jar with some solvent, CA solvent. I know there's other stuff that I could probably use, but I use this, and I just let it soak in there, and then the next time I want to go and use it, I take it out, and I put it back into my pin vise. Now, if it was glued into the end of a dowel, well, then it's kind of hard to remove. Now, I was just thinking, maybe what I could do is resharpen the end of the needle and just sort of jam it into the dowel and then pull it out when I want to clean it. You know, that'd work too. But I find this really handy. But I will admit that there's times that I want lots of reach. Like my specialty tool is on the other end of this thing. I would just have to be careful I don't poke myself in the eye when I'm working with it if I had something on both ends. Now, I have more dowels downstairs in the workshop. Anyway, that's why I use the pin vise. Now, while we're waiting for the rest of the opinions to come in as to whether we should have round railing or straight railing, let's see if we can't maybe put a piece right here. Okay, so it has to be that long, and then a little bit to allow for the fact that it's going to take a bit of a bend. This piece here is almost exactly the right length if we cut just the other side of this post. Notice that it's going to be just slightly too long, but I think by the time we put a bend, well, I guess the bend will go back here, that will draw this end in, and once again we're going to end up with 4 little rails that probably are not going to be attached to anything, unless we're really lucky and they'll go up against the bulkhead. But it's not a big deal. It's going to be underneath the little boats. Nobody's going to be able to see it anyway. Of course, we'll all know it's there, and it'll bother us like crazy. Okay, now if one post goes on the left there, the bend should probably be right about, I would say right there from point to point. Okay, that's going to put our bend right there. Okay, do we want a rounded bend? Maybe a little bit rounded. I like rounded bends. I don't know why. Might not be realistic. Right there. Okay, something like that. Now, it doesn't have to be bent very much, but I think that's about it. So if I can, does it look square? Maybe it has to go just a little bit like this so that the bend is going to be parallel with everything else. Okay, if I push down, I think that might be just about right. Might be a little bit too much. Let's flip it up and see what it looks like here. I guess best thing to do is put it on the deck. Now I caught my hand on that little railing there. I guess you can't see it, it's just above your vision there, but fortunately I didn't seem to bend anything. Okay, now what's going to happen here when I move this back? Just get that post just on the inside. Do you know what? On the right side, those rails that I was worried about, they more or less, oh, I bent the bottom one. Well, I can straighten that. Okay. Now, it might be a little hard to see because I can hardly see it, but the bottom rail right there, I shortened it about 1 millimeter. And the idea is it can just fit in behind this little, I guess it would be the continuation of this bulkhead here. I thought that this went all the way up underneath the boat, more or less, but it doesn't. But I do think it's going to look quite okay if we can glue it right there. So I'm going to put the macro lens on and we'll see if we can't just glue this post. Oop, don't bump it. And then we'll work our way along and get the rest of it right. Now I still have the CA thin in that little cup. Now, even though I couldn't see that very good, I'm going to trust that it did wick its way in. Now, I know it looks like we're still set up from the way we were before, but I had a bit of an accident here. I was moving my camera and I bumped my specialty stick, which in turn pulled the railing right off. Now, the good news, if you can call it good news, is that the didn't seem to be any sort of CA glue sticking on there. Okay, now I can see it on the end of my applicator. I know it's going to work now. There we go. Okay, now we'll let that cure and we should be able to work our way out to the other end. Okay, about 3 or 4 minutes has passed now. Let's lift our stick off. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's stuck on there. It's acting like it is. Now let's just move down a little bit here. I'll reposition the camera in just a moment here so you can see the other end. That seems about right to me. Now we get to try out our little hooked one here. I think it came off. Oh, I bumped my stick. Okay, I'm pretty sure it's okay. I'm going to have to watch now when I pull that out of there. Did you notice the moisture from my breath come out on that That's a little bit more moisture than I want. Okay, let's see if we can get this out now. Now let's push on it and see if it moves. Okay, I would say that it's adhered. Now, get that moisture off of there. I just realized that possibly from the camera angle you couldn't see that. Okay, I want to hook in there and pull this back and down. Something like that. Now, how can I get in there? Did it look like it came off, or did I just end up gluing my pin to the rail? Okay, very carefully now. Yeah, the pin did glue a little bit to the rail, but it came loose, and you can see here it is glued down. Okay, let's leave well enough alone. Let's go check the computer and see, are we supposed to do round, or are we supposed to do straight? I'm sitting at the computer right now, and I haven't even checked the comments. I've just finished editing out those last few scenes, and we're already up to 27 minutes. We gotta cut this off. So thanks for watching, and all being well, we'll see you tomorrow, and then we'll find out, are we supposed to have rounded rail or straight rail?